All right, I have yet another instance of sampler sitting over here, and I muted everything except for the two drum tracks that I have. And what I've done with this particular sampler, let me go ahead and expand it. I've loaded in a ton of different chords from one of Bitwig's packages. This is what the Sampled Synths Volume 1, and a ton of different A-sharp chords here, and you're going to hear those all in a second. Now, as you can see, I brought these all in. In fact, let me just go ahead and change the view so you can really see. All of these chords right now are stacked on one note, C3. And if I play C3, you're going to hear all these chords at once, and it's going to sound pretty bad. Oh, that's actually not C3. There you go. That is what we call dissonance. Now, what I want to do, instead of playing these all at once, is I want to make it so that I can adjust this select knob and select one of these many different chords to play. If I go over here to the right side, as we had mentioned before, we have the ability to basically map all these different key zones across ranges of velocities or across ranges that we can trigger using the select knob. So now that's what I'm going to do. Just like what we did before, I can distribute these ranges equally if I go ahead and right click and go to distribute select. Now I got to select all of these in order to do that. So let's go ahead and, all right, I'll right click, distribute select equally, and there we go. So now these are not going to overlap. And we see when I'm playing C3, only the top zone gets selected because we are in that particular range. So if I adjust the select knob here, all right, so now we get that to happen, which can be quite interesting. Now, one thing I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and increase the release time on my volume envelope here a bit, but I don't want these chords to overlap if one happens to play when the other one gets triggered. So let me go over to my voice mode. And again, I just brought that up in the inspector panel by clicking on the sampler name. And we're going to set this to monophonic as well. We'll talk about some of the other voice mode parameters a little bit later. But now, there we go. Okay, interesting. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to take all these different zones and I'm going to group them together because there might be some things I want to change, but I want to keep all of these zones sounding relatively the same. So then I would change all of them by the same amount. All right, so I'm going to select all these groups and I'm going to right click and I will just go to group and there's my group. And we're going to call this chords. All right, cool. Now let me see. One thing I was concerned about was the root key, because everything else I had tuned so that when I played C, I'm actually hearing the pitch of C. Now, when I brought these samples in, just to give you an example here, let's say I grab this. When I drag it in this view, we can see right now the one note that it's going to land on will be the root note. So right now, all of these are playing at the root note of C3, which means they're playing the original pitch, which in this case is a chord that starts in A, and that's not necessarily what I want. So instead, I'm going to take this group and I'm going to adjust the root pitch of all of these to A. So let me go ahead and adjust all of these to A. Let's see, maybe A2. Okay, so theoretically that should fit. I think the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab myself a modulator and modulate the select parameter. And I think I want this to, yeah, we're going to move through the whole range of values every 2 bars, like so. And we'll use an upward sawtooth here. I don't want this to be bipolar. All right, so we'll map this like that. And I'm going to go ahead and just record a pattern with this. Oops, didn't mean to do that. We'll do that instead. All right, so let me play the drums. And I'll record a little pattern here. So let me go back here and I'm going to adjust the root key to be an octave lower. All right, anyway, so we got some very interesting, weird and wacky stuff going on. So that's one benefit to using the zone select parameter. And of course, we can use all these things in tandem, but so far you see what we can do. So let's check out more of the voice modes, and eventually we're going to look at these very interesting zone parameters too.